Hey there, Pokemon trainer! How's it going? Minebuild here, and today I'm going to show you how to use Skarmory in competitive battles. If you're into strategy and want to step up your competitive Pokemon game, stick with me in this video. I'll break down my analysis of this awesome Pokemon and highlight the best moves to get the most out of it in single battles. And hey, I want to hear from you too. What moveset would you use on Skarmory? Drop your suggestions in the comments. If you're enjoying this competitive Pokemon analysis, don't forget to leave a like and right after that, hype the video. It makes a huge difference in helping the video reach more people and perform better on the platform. And if you want to go the extra mile and support the channel financially, consider becoming a member. Your support means the world and keeps this content going. Also, make sure to subscribe to the Minebuild channel so you never miss a new analysis. And if you love Pokemon and also play Minecraft, stick around until the end. I've put together a playlist with amazing Pokemon builds in Minecraft, all created by me. Now, let's get started and make Skarmory shine in battles. Skarmory made its debut in the Johto region as Pokemon number 227 in the National Dex. Skarmory doesn't have any pre-evolutions or evolutions, it's a single-stage Pokemon. It's a Steel and Flying type, a combo that gives it some clear strengths and weaknesses in competitive battles. According to the Pokédex, Skarmory stands at 1.7 meter tall and weighs 50.5 kilograms. Its total base stats add up to 465, spread across HP, 65, attack, 80, defense, 140, special attack, 40, special defense, 70, and speed, 70. Skarmory has 3 possible abilities, and each one pushes it in a very different direction. The first one is Keen Eye, which prevents its accuracy from being lowered. Honestly, this is the least useful option. Accuracy drops aren't that common in competitive play, so most of the time this ability just doesn't bring real value. The second ability is Sturdy, and this is where things get interesting. If Skarmory is at full HP and takes a hit that would normally knock it out, it survives with 1 HP instead. This also makes it immune to one-hit KO moves. Keep in mind, though, this won't save you from moves like Self-Destruct or Explosion if Skarmory is the one using them. For a defensive Skarmory, which is exactly what we're focusing on in this analysis, Sturdy is easily the best ability. It guarantees at least 1 turn of impact, which is huge for setting hazards or recovering. And finally, the hidden ability, Weak Armor. When Skarmory gets hit, its defense drops by 1 stage, 33.3%, but its speed sharply increases by 2 stages, 100%. This ability leans much more toward an offensive or aggressive playstyle. It can work in specific builds, especially if you're going for a faster, more offensive approach, but that's not the focus here. For this video, we're sticking with a defensive Skarmory, and in that role, Sturdy is the clear choice. Going back to Skarmory's base stats, its HP is relatively low, and its attack isn't high enough to justify an offensive build, which is why I don't recommend using Skarmory as an attacker. On the other hand, its defense is extremely high. This is what makes Skarmory such a strong physical wall. Even though the HP isn't amazing, with proper investment, it can comfortably take physical hits and stay on the field for a long time. Its special attack is basically irrelevant, you're not going to use it. Its special defense is also on the weaker side, which means special attackers are a real threat and something you need to watch out for. And finally, its speed is low. Skarmory isn't outspeeding most Pokemon, but it does have just enough speed to move before very slow, stall-oriented Pokemon, which can occasionally make a difference in longer matches. So overall, Skarmory is clearly built to be a physical defensive wall, not an offensive threat. Skarmory takes 2 times damage from fire and electric type moves. Against water, ice, fighting, rock, ghost and dark types, Skarmory takes neutral damage. On the resistance side, there are some positives. Skarmory has 2 immunities, meaning it takes no damage from poison and ground-type moves. It also has 2 4x resistances, taking only 25% damage from grass and bug-type moves. On top of that, it has 6 2x resistances, taking 50% damage from normal, flying, psychic, dragon, steel and fairy type moves. This wide range of resistances is exactly what makes Skarmory such a strong pick for defensive or support builds. So in summary, Skarmory has 2 2x weaknesses, 2 immunities, 2 4x resistances and 6 2x resistances. Offensively, Skarmory deals super effective damage against grass, ice, fighting, bug, rock and fairy types. Against normal, fire, water, poison, ground, flying, psychic, ghost, dragon and dark types, it deals neutral damage. However, both of its stabs, steel and flying, are resisted by electric and steel type Pokémon. Alright, let's take a look at the best move options I've selected. Body Press is a fighting type physical move with 80 base power. What makes it unique is that it calculates damage using the user's defense stat instead of its attack. It also makes direct contact. On Skarmory, this move is extremely effective. Since Skarmory has naturally very high defense, it can turn its main defensive strength into real offensive pressure, allowing it to punish physical attackers while still fulfilling its role as a wall. Stealth Rock is a rock-type status move that sets an entry hazard on the opponent's side of the field. When a Pokémon switches in, it takes damage on entry. The base damage is 12.5% of its maximum HP, and it can vary depending on the target's weakness or resistance to rock-type attacks. On Skarmory, this is one of its core competitive tools. It applies constant pressure throughout the match, punishing switches and forcing the opponent into more predictable, constrained plays. Meanwhile, Skarmory maintains its defensive presence and helps control the pace of the game from a stable, utility-focused position. Spikes is a ground-type status move that sets entry hazards on the opponent's side of the field. Any grounded Pokémon that switches in, meaning those that are not flying type or do not have levitate, takes damage upon entry. The damage starts at 12.5% of its max HP and can stack up to 3 layers, increasing the overall pressure on every switch. On Skarmory, Spikes is a classic tool for long-term wear-down strategies. It steadily chips away at the opposing team over the course of the match, especially in games with frequent switching. This synergizes perfectly with Skarmory's role as a physical wall, reinforcing its ability to control tempo and support hazard stacking or stall-oriented game plans. Roost is a flying-type status move that restores 50% of the user's maximum HP. During the turn it is used, a flying-type user temporarily loses its flying typing. On Skarmory, Roost is essential for competitive longevity. It allows repeated switches throughout the match, enabling Skarmory to consistently reapply Stealth Rock and Spikes while maintaining its defensive presence. This recovery also offsets chip damage from hazards and constant switching, reinforcing its role as a durable physical wall that can stay active across the entire game. Iron Defense is a steel-type status move that raises the user's defense by 2 stages, 100%. On Skarmory, this is a core part of its defensive setup. It significantly boosts its already high defense, making it much harder to break physically. As a secondary effect, it also directly increases the damage output of Body Press if it is part of the moveset, turning Skarmory into both a sturdier wall and a more threatening counter-attacker in prolonged fights. Whirlwind is a normal-type status move that forces the target to switch out into another random Pokémon from its team, as long as they still have available substitutes. It has -6 priority, meaning it almost always goes after other moves. On Skarmory, this is a classic form of field control. It directly punishes setup attempts by removing stat boosts from the field, and it works especially well alongside Stealth Rock and Spikes. By forcing repeated switches, it maximizes hazard damage over the course of the match and reinforces Skarmory's role as a tempo controller in defensive and stall-oriented strategies. Roar is a normal-type status move that forces the target to switch out into a random Pokémon from their team, as long as they have available substitutes. It has -6 priority, meaning it almost always acts last. Because it is a sound-based move, it can be blocked by the soundproof ability. On Skarmory, Roar serves essentially the same strategic role as Whirlwind, with the added nuance of interacting with sound-based abilities. It is primarily used to shut down setup attempts, disrupt opposing boosts, and amplify the value of Stealth Rock and Spikes by forcing repeated switches. This accelerates passive damage accumulation and strengthens Skarmory's role as a consistent tempo disruptor in defensive game plans. Protect is a normal type status move that blocks all incoming attacks during the turn it is used. It has +4 priority, allowing it to activate before most moves. However, consecutive uses sharply reduce its success rate to about 33.3% each time. On Skarmory, Protect functions as a tempo and information control tool. It allows you to scout the opponent's move, stall for passive recovery, and rack up additional hazard damage. Now that we've gone through Skarmory's best move options, let's move on to the ideal singles battle moveset I've put together for you. After analyzing Skarmory's base stats, ability, and move pool, it's clear that it was designed to function as a defensive Pokémon. Its massive defense stat, combined with HP investment and a ton of useful resistances, lets Skarmory take physical hits all day long while getting its hazards up on the field. With the release of Pokemon Champions, several mechanics have changed, so let's break down how things work now. EVs have been replaced by stat points, SP, but they still function in a very similar way, serving as the main method of customizing a Pokemon's stats. It's also important to keep in mind that Skarmory is being considered at level 50, and in Pokemon Champions, IVs are effectively locked at 31 across the board. There is no longer any way to adjust them, meaning every Pokemon already starts with fully optimized base potential. For Skarmory, I fully invested its stat points into defense and HP. The remaining points were placed into speed. The chosen nature is Impish, which boosts defense and lowers special attack. Since Skarmory doesn't use special moves, the selected ability is Sturdy, and honestly, it's the best ability Skarmory has to offer for a defensive set. For the moveset, the only damaging move I went with is Body Press, and it's a perfect fit, since it scales off Skarmory's insane defense stat, turning that bulk into actual offensive pressure. On the hazard side, Stealth Rock is the pick. The goal is simple: get it up on turn 1, the moment Skarmory hits the field. From that point on, every switch your opponent makes costs them HP, and if they're the type to swap around a lot, that chip damage adds up fast. Next up is Roost, Skarmory's recovery move. Use it at the right moment to heal up and stay on the field longer. The more turns Skarmory survives, the more value you get out of it. And finally, Whirlwind. This one comes in clutch when your opponent starts setting up boosts in front of you, or when they bring in something that has a type advantage over Skarmory. The best part? It combos perfectly with Stealth Rock. If the rocks are already up, every Pokemon you phase out takes a hit on the way back in. In this other moves section, I'll keep things more concise. Instead of going into detail about each move, I'll simply recommend a few options that you might find useful when building your Skarmory. Let's take a look at some other moves Skarmory can learn. On the physical side, Skarmory actually has access to a decent variety of attacking moves. Now, if you actually want to run those physical attacking moves, you'll need to build Skarmory as an offensive set instead. For physical move options, I'd recommend Brave Bird, Flying, Drill Run, Ground, Iron Head, Steel, and Assurance, Dark. As for special attacking moves, I wouldn't recommend any of them. Skarmory's special attack is just too low to make them worth running. Finally, we get to the status moves. It's also worth mentioning a few additional status options. You can also consider Tailwind, Flying, and Taunt, Dark, if your plan is to use Skarmory more as a support Pokemon for your team. Now we wait for Generation 10 to see if Skarmory gets new tools and maybe opens up new ways to be used in battle. I hope you enjoyed this analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.